Yeah, my name is Abby, or Abigail if you're my mother. I am now 23. I'm from Bethesda, Maryland originally. Went to New York for 4 years for undergrad, now back for graduate school. I think as a youth caregiver, so I became a caregiver at the age of 11. My grandmother had a traumatic brain aneurysm when I was 9. And slowly but surely, the thing I think needs to be said most about caregiving is that it can happen to anyone at any time. You know, people always talk about, you know, I couldn't afford this, so I had to stay home. But my family was well off. We were well off. There was 4 siblings, all working full-time jobs, and we still couldn't provide enough care. And I think that's something that we all talk about is, oh, this might be a lower class issue, or this is an economic issue. It hits everybody. And I think that as someone who cared for their grandparent, because there was simply no one else to do it, you know, I was kind of slowly worked into the role as my parents had to go back to work, as all the siblings had to go back to work to now pay for their mortgage, now the grandparents' mortgage, all those things at once became so much cost that they were like, now we can't hire an in-home health aide, that can't be afforded. Medicare doesn't want to give you one. What's next? Well, Abby likes hanging out with grandma and grandpa. Why don't we see how that goes? And slowly but surely you pick up more responsibilities. But again, I lived in a very white, very affluent neighborhood. And I know now that there was many people doing care work in that neighborhood, but at the time I felt so isolated. But I think a lot of people really need to understand that it is such a broad issue. It is not one population, one demographic. It is everyone all the time. I think a lot about employers, especially being someone who's young, has been really hard to understand that, like, while my grandparent was still alive and we were still in care relationships, like, I would have to leave to go take care of my grandparent, and they'd be like, well, why can't your mother help, or why? There was always a disconnect there of like, and it happened with school too, like people being like, why are you traveling home if your grandma's not doing well, but she's gonna be okay? Like, well, I need to do that work. That is the care I need to do. And I think that was really hard for people. And when she finally passed, people being like, why is the grandparent so upsetting to you? And I'm like, because she was my lifeline for 10 years. And so I think that is a big one. And then just the one I also always think about when I think about explaining to people is doctors and medical professionals also, which comes with policy too and educating them better. The amount of times I would have a doctor be confused when my grandfather looked at me when he asked a question about my grandma. I'd be like, you know, how often is she ambulating? How often is she going out of bed? He wouldn't know because he couldn't get her out of bed by himself. So he'd look at me and then all of them were like, why are they looking at her? She's just the daughter who may have driven them here. No, I'm more than just the daughter who driven them here. So I think there's a lot of education overall, especially in the medical field, of an understanding of when someone is in a room, pay attention to them, especially when it comes to caregivers. They probably have something important. They don't want to just be there to be there. They have a reason. I think that's important. I would say believe young people, especially in the world of caregiving. Understand that there is a lot of joy in caregiving, that people find, really that's the big thing. People find joy and purpose in caregiving. So many people and policymakers think, oh, this is such a negative thing. We're having to make people do this work. The answer is, you know, finding different solutions that don't involve the families still helping to care. And I think really what we need is families staying together and caregivers being honored within the family role as a caregiver. And I think especially with children, people are always like, well, kids, they don't really have a choice. They don't want to do it. I will, till the day I die, say that my greatest joy was ever caring for my grandmother. I will go and tell that to anyone who will listen. People will be like, you spent 9 years doing that. Is that really what you wanted? You lost out on high school experiences. You lost out on all these different things. And I would say I'd do it again in a heartbeat. There is not a single part of me that has any regrets. And I think that's something what policymakers especially think, oh, this is a problem to fix and not just a community we need to support. This is not, oh, this all needs a solution and it needs to be, you know, these people getting relieved of what they're doing. No, we just want to be supported while we're doing it.